Good evening. Man Cave Sports back to preview the 2025-26 Minnesota Timberwolves NBA season. I have my trusted four talking heads, uh, guys that will be doing the Hungry Like the Wolves weekly telecast this year, much like we did last year. Good to have you, gentlemen. Brett, good to see you. It's been a minute. Ramon as
Good to see
well.
you.
I see these other two Yahoos enough for a lifetime, but anyways. So today was media day. I believe the training camp portion starts tomorrow, and Saturday is their first preseason game against the Denver Nuggets. So this crew here, especially with the last couple of days of craziness in Minnesota sports, I think we're happy that the basketball season is upon us. But obviously, there were a few changes in the offseason. Steve, I'm going to start with you if you want to discuss some of the players that departed. Obviously, there were some tough decisions for the front office to make, so they couldn't bring back everybody.
Yeah, I think the front office did a good job trying to set themselves up to be in good shape this year, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But the big one is Nikhil Alexander Walker. Um, the Swiss Army knife of our team a little bit there in the front court is being able to run point, play two guard a bit, being able to guard, basically 94 feet, picking up guys at three quarters and riding them all the way down so I think that his defense is going to be a bit missed because he was pretty tenacious at defense and his offense was getting better last year. I think the second half of the season, his offense came along and, I think that was a nice surprise that, we kicked to him on the corner or on the wing and he was hitting a lot more of those shots. And, so I think he did a really good job at that part of his maturation. And I think that the Wolves did a good job by him, to the sign and trade to Atlanta. I think he's going to do a good job there. I think that's going to be a better situation for him. I think playing in the East and he's going to get more minutes and more consistent minutes and a more consistent role. He doesn't have to worry about trying to be PG1 because they've already got it, right? They've got a well-established PG1. So, I think that's going to be the most interesting hole for us to fill and see if one of the young guys are going to step up. Is it going to be more Dante time? How are we going to handle some of the load that he had for us? I think that we had, then Luka Garza and Josh Minot, they shipped up to Boston way. They decided that they were too good of friends to separate at this point in their careers and they wanted to go hang out some more together. But Luka Garza was a bit of a fan favorite here. I think everybody liked watching Luka Garza time when he'd come in and everybody cheer when he hit a three or one of these things. And he did have some good minutes when we had all those injuries, in December and whatnot, right? Like he did step up and do a good job there. And I think that's what got him signed in Boston is that there is signs of progress and growth. And Minot, they tried to work him in the beginning of the season last year and he just wasn't able to work into be a steady rotational player. And, I know we'll talk about rotation more here as we go along, but I think that the big thing is that now figuring out how we're going to replace that defense and then that additional set of points, 10 to 15 points roughly a game that he was able to pop out for us. So we'll see. It'll be interesting, but yeah, Luka and Minot, I think the organization did right by him and tried to help him out and develop him as best they could. And it just, time came. Father Time's undefeated.
Absolutely. Sure. Absolutely. Now, obviously, and I think the consensus among this group was they weren't going to be able to re-sign all three of their key free agents. So with that, Brian, we'll let you talk about the players they did re-sign to Cogs, especially, and Joe Ingles. But talk about the guys that we re-signed here for the upcoming season 2 extensions.
Hey, TC, man, he's got a love affair with Bones Highland. You can't forget him either. Yeah, I'm just saying. Well, the writing's on the wall with this. Absolutely. When Carl was traded, they were gearing up to Jules to put up or shut up and then re-sign Nas. And we couldn't sign them all. I mean, so it was those three guys. They went through the season and, Jules and Nas. Which ones are you going to sign? You can only sign 2. And I think it all worked out in the wash. We got them at great contracts. Jules 3 for 33 a year. Nas at 25 mil a year. It seems like Tim had a system with it, knew what he was going to do, and we all knew about it at the same time. And Finchy and TC and all those K-Fan interviews when we were like, oh, are we going to sign Nah? Or are we going to sign Nas? Are we going to bring back, or are we trading Jules? They knew what they were doing. So I like the continuity, just as Mr. Steve talked earlier before we talked. I think everybody knows their roles now. There's not Dante and Jules have been here for a year, not being traded on the eve of training camp. I think it's a consistency thing, and let's go with it. Joe Ingles, that was weird. But you know what? That guy seems like a great guy. I'd like to pound a couple black and tans with that guy. And Smyers car bombs. I think that Aussie will be my buddy. And Bones, TC drafted him. Let's see what happens. And Nas just collateral damage. There's no way out of those three free agents that we were going to go with that guy. And we helped him out, as Mr. Steve did allude to. Michael.
Yeah, and I believe, did we get a second round pick out of that as well?
We did. Yeah, we got like
Heavily
49
protected, I think, though.
Yeah. Well, either way, better
But
to
still, you got
get
something.
something out of it. So.
And you did right by him.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And you know that when Atlanta comes to town, Nikhil will get a nice video salute and a nice round of applause from the faithful here. So we did talk a little bit this summer. This group got together, but let's talk again about the draft picks, Brett. Obviously, we got two big guys in the first and second round of the draft last year. We got to see a little bit of them in the summer league. So talk about what we can expect out of our rookies.
Yeah, I think after watching that summer league, I'm not completely convinced that Berenger is the project that we think he is. He's obviously a project, but man, that kid was packing off the glass and swatting and eating points. I mean, why not get that kid out there, man? Rudy's on the wrong side of 30 now. There's going to be nights where Rudy needs to be out, and Nas to me is still kind of a true 4, honestly, like more of a 3 than a 5 at times. So I think we'll see a little bit of at least one of these two, Zakarsky or Berenger. So I'm really excited to see which one of those guys in the preseason can kind of carve out that niche as the next man up behind Rudy. But man, Berenger, I was kind of scratching my head. I think we all kind of were that night. Who is this kid, right? Like 19 years old, skinny, minimal basketball experience. But after watching him in the summer league and watching just the instinct that he has to attack the ball and protect that paint is something else. So I think that when he's able to tune up his offense, and I think he will too, he's so young and he's clearly a natural athlete, has a lot of soccer instinct in him. So transitioning from a soccer to a basketball player a little bit later on in his youth athletic career, he's going to pick those things up and could be really dangerous. But I mean, on some of those back-to-back nights, man, let's give Rudy some rest. And I'm not saying start the kid, but I wouldn't mind seeing 10 minutes of young Yohan Berenger, senior smoke out on the court. So, similar to like right. Similar to kind of what's going to happen with Mike Conley on the wrong side of 35 now, 37 now, I believe. So, he'll have to, we'll have to tap into the reserves there on some of the back-to-backs. I think, why not with Rudy? And we had to lean on Luka Garza a few more times than I would have liked last year. And Luka's fun. Luka's great in garbage time, and he can flame from 3. But my God, from a defensive standpoint, it was absolutely brutal. I think it was that Miami game where he just got chewed up and almost single-handedly blew a 10-point lead for us. I don't think this Berenger kid's going to do that. Zakarsky, I'm reserving judgment on. I will actually be in San Diego for game 1 of preseason, so I'll kind of report back to you guys. I'm hoping that I get a good look at both of those guys, so I'll have some content on that front for you on these young bucks.
Nice. I like it. Yeah. And young Berenger, he only has been playing for 5 years. I think in the first 20 seconds or so of his summer league debut, he swatted 2 shots away. So it was just like, wow, very impressive. So I know we're all looking forward to seeing his development. Ramon,
Yes,
good to see you, sir.
likewise.
Let's talk about the rotation, well, the depth and the
Mm.
rotation. Now, this was a big subject for this group last year. I think all of us kind of at times would question Mr. Finch's rotation, but what do you think it's going to look like this year? Because I will say, immediately after last season, he did say something to the effect that he's probably going to run a deeper bench than previously. So I'll be
Yeah,
interested to see that. But what do you think? Last year, kind of an 8-9 man rotation, stuck to the 8 man pretty much throughout
yeah.
the playoffs until I think towards the end he started to put TSJ in there. So he kind of went 9 the last couple of games of the Western Conference Finals. But what do you think the rotation as well as the depth's going to look like this season?
Well, I think Finch's hand is actually going to be forced a little bit here. I think that as you touched on, that was one of the biggest sources of our frustration all season was that he was married to this 8 man rotation, would mix in a guy like Minot at times for like 5, 6 minutes, and that was the extent of what the ninth man would get. But in a league that's constantly changing, where you have players like Kevin Durant, Hall of Famers, all-time greats, who move on to new teams within 2 years. And the Wolves, who are a team that has made some big moves over the last couple of years, they actually do have quite a bit of continuity. They're bringing back 7 of their top 8 guys. As much as losing Naw is a big blow, I think, to their team, as for all the reasons that Steve mentioned, his versatility, his defense, his ability to knock down shots. They're bringing pretty much everybody back. But one of the problems with their top 7 is that one of them is 37 years old, 38, I think, by the name of Mike Conley, and he he looked it last year. And the word is that he had a healthy off season, but I think we have to assume that he's not going to be able to play a whole lot of minutes this season to be at his best. And what do we have behind him? I mean, yes, you could run Point Ant, you can run Dante at the point, but then you have a young kid, a 20-year-old in Rob Dillingham that may not be ready for to play big minutes on a team that has aspirations to go far. And as much as I like Jalen Clark, he's a defensive guy. He can guard the point, but he's not going to be able to run the point for you. So I think Na allowed the Wolves to really go with an 8 man rotation because he could fill so many gaps. But I think Finch's hand is going to be forced this year, where I didn't even mention TSJ, high energy scorer who I am so excited to see and see what he does with the minutes that he's undoubtedly going to get. But he's not going to be running the point where Na could do that. And I think his defense is a bit of a question mark as well. I mean, I think he showed out in the playoffs that like, okay, this guy can guard a little bit, but I think that you're gonna see Finch have to play 9 guys this year, and I think that is for the best. And I left out a guy, be naughty, Bones. Oh, who else did I leave out? But Bones Highland, I mean, he could surpass um Rob Dillingham as the backup point guard because he's only 25 years old, but he is experienced and he is a Tim Connolly guy. So I'm really excited that they have continuity, but also the intrigue of this 9 man rotation that I think Finch is going to have to use.
No doubt. Yeah, it should be interesting. I'm excited for TSJ as well. I think he will pick up a good portion of the NA minutes, as well as Dante, maybe even getting a little more playing
They
time,
say he's
especially
number 1 on the depth chart. They
well,
really
and
want Dante to run the point.
especially with Bite's age getting up there. So it'll be interesting to see what this rotation looks like to start the season. So today was media day. I was able, when I got home from work, to decipher a couple of the comments, some interesting stuff out of Ant and what he worked on in the off season. Some very good quotes from a lot of the players. I did find out that Ant misses out of all of his former teammates. It sounds like he misses Vando quite a bit. But I don't know if you guys saw that. It's pretty funny. Check it out afterwards. But Mr. Steve, I know you were clued in today on Media Day. Tell us anything of note that came out of Media Day today.
Yeah, it was, some nice pleasantries from Ant, about how he wants to stay dialed in, and how he's going to stay on top of things with lower tiered, lower expectation opponents. He's going to go for that scoring title, and that's how he's going to stay dialed in. But I mainly focused in on Conley and Finch, and really listened to what they were talking about, because that kind of leads to where we're going to go. And so some of the things that you guys were talking about earlier here leads into some of these comments from Conley. So Conley, of course, said continuity about 92 times. But the one thing that he did say, he was asked about salary cap and second apron, and he was talking about how much that they are flexible this year because they're under the second apron. That leaves them a lot of room should a deal appear this season. Let's layer on top of that. We're gonna go. I'm not gonna quite put on the tinfoil hat, but we'll get a little bit. We'll stray towards the Reynolds wrap that's in the cupboard there. Connolly said that the team needs to learn how to defend better without Rudy. Direct quote. That the team has trust in TJ, Rob, and Clark, that they need to get more minutes, so that they can earn their teammates' trust. Ant's been in the film room a lot, studying, and so he was really excited about that. And that dovetails into what Finch was talking about, because Conley also wants them to be able to be better at crunch time, and we all know that was an issue. And that's something that Finch said too about Ant is, being better at closing games, being able to manipulate the defense, be more of a playmaker when they want to run. That was a problem with Ant last year. He's getting double teamed and trying to figure out how to handle that. But, and Finch did say that Ant's got MVP DNA, and so he thinks that this could be something for him. But it was really interesting combining Connolly's comments with Finch's comments, talking about Dilly needing to be able to work on his playmaking abilities, and then everything else is just kind of platitudes. But, I think it's pretty interesting the comment, we drafted two bigs, and then, Connolly talking about the team needing to learn how to defend without Rudy to be more consistent there, how we needed to learn, and how they want to stay flexible for the season, be below that second apron so that if a deal appears. And so I'm like, is that meaning that should something come up, Rudy goes up and we got Behringer and Zakarsky to pick up the piece? I don't know. Zakarsky's in a two-way, so who knows? That could be too far into it. But the one thing that was very telling to me, Finch talking about on-ball pressure being an issue and how they have to get back to that and reestablish it. And that was something I screamed until I probably blood vessels in my eyes in the playoffs about getting on the ball, especially against Oklahoma, is, not waiting to the 3-point line to pick him up, get on the ball, pick him up above half court. And so Finch was talking about them needing to get back to that. So I thought those are some key nuggets there. I thought it was really interesting, to reiterate and close here. Connolly saying we got to defend better without Rudy, and that continuity is key, but we need to stay flexible and stay under that second apron. So if a deal comes up, we're in an ability to pounce. So read those tea leaves as you may.
All right. Appreciate the update, and thank you for checking that out for the group, Mr. Steve. You alluded to Ant, what he's worked on in the offseason. It's year number 6 for Mr. Edwards. He has made it to the playoffs 4 of his 5 years, just missing at his rookie season, and is on the cusp of superstardom. I think ESPN has him ranked the 6th best player in the NBA, behind Wemby, who missed 30 games last year. I still don't quite get that one, but nonetheless, I think the majority of NBA fans know he's a top 10 talent, if not a top 5. So, Brett, talk about what we need to see out of Ant this year to have him ascend to where he's in the MVP conversation, right alongside SGA, Joker, Giannis, Luka.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the only glaring differences is finishing games, right? Ant wants the ball as the seconds are ticking down. He still has yet to hit a real, defining game-winning buzzer beater, even like a dagger in a big moment. So I think zeroing in on just being a closer and what exactly that means, it doesn't always have to mean taking the shot, but we do want to see him be that absolute killer, much the way Luka Doncic was to us in game 2 of the Western Conference Finals in 2024, where it's like you're just holding your breath. He's going to hit this. I don't know that Ant is really there yet. I think that's kind of like the next tier into greatness, because you're right. Superstardom, I think that we are very close, if not there. And then to dip into the greatness pool, it's like he's got to be that guy where like Kobe was, Jordan. Um, I mean, I don't want to put Luca and Shea in the same category as Jordan and Kobe, but those are guys where it's like, yeah, you're holding your breath when they have the ball in the final seconds and you're up against them. Ant's not quite there yet. I think teams still kind of lick their chops, like he might make a mistake. So if he can nix that aspect out of his game, I'm really excited to see something that he mentioned going into the offseason. As good as the Olympics were for him to play with LeBron, Kevin Durant, the other guys, some of his peers, the younger guys like Bam and Booker, that was a great summer for him, and we saw a lot of ascension there. He mentioned though that this summer he gets to kind of work on his own things. He's got the entire summer to be in the gym, zeroing in on what he wants to zero in on. Last year it was the three ball. This year sounds like it's going to be the mid-range game, maybe even some post up, using that body to kind of bang down there. So I think he's obviously learned a ton. I think he knows what he needs to do. He knows what he needs to zero in on, and it sounds like he's done that. Listening to his presser today, he sounded great. He sounded confident. Made a mention of connecting with the rest of the guys like Nas and Jaden at their camps. Those guys all host camps, and it was kind of Ant's idea to say, "Hey, let me know when it is, and I'll come by, and you come to mine, and we'll sync up in the summer." So that continuity is going to really help him. Continuity with Finch as well. They're going on a handful of years together, much the way him and Nas and Jaden are. He's got his point guard back, Mike Conley, for I think their third year together. So he's got the continuity. It's all there. He knows what he needs to zero in on, and it sounds like he has. So cannot wait to see the results. Really excited to watch him. And, hopefully we're talking trophies and MVPs and award season rather than, graduating from that all-star accolade into the springtime accolades beyond just the all NBA second team. We want to be first team and in the discussion for MVP. And I think that's where he wants to be. And I believe, if all these things come together, he will be. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, I found it interesting. Two other things that I heard him say about that. He did spend a lot of time with Julius Randle this summer. Said they were together almost daily. But then also somebody asked him about getting up for some of the lesser teams. And he said
Yeah.
basically he wants to start getting career highs and or running up his point total against those. I believe there was something mentioned about averaging 30 points a game this year, which I think would be an increase of about two per game. So good to hear those quotes. I mean, he's saying the right things. Obviously, nobody's surprised about that coming from him. He's not very bashful. Jaden McDaniels. Now, I know last year, I think through the first half of the season, I was very vocal that Jaden was no longer untouchable. Seemed like he struggled a bit. We didn't see that leap in offense that we were hoping to see, the 2 to 3 point, addition per game. But I think by the end of the year, we realized what we had there. In the playoffs the last 2 years, he's had a couple of games where he's just played out of his mind. Added that midi last year that was just money. And I think Jaden, next to Ant, might be the most important player on the team. And I think he just turned 25 today, if I read correctly. So he's, what do they say? 27, 28 is generally considered your NBA prime. So both he and Ant, I think Ant just turned 24. They're a couple of years away from their prime, but they're at the point where they should really make a big impact. Brian, talk about what we need to see this year out of Jaden.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm glad you brought that up. 25 years old today from the Washington product. Yeah, my daughter was born in 2000, so it just kind of makes me feel like an older man than I am. We signed him at a bargain. He only averages on the extension $26.5 million a year. And the way you're seeing Book and SGA and people. It was just it was a great move by TC, and you gotta give hats off to Gerson for drafting him. He was traded twice in that draft. What did we get him at 28th? Jaden is the prototypical 3-and-D guy. I mean, he says he's 6'9", but he kind of looks like he's 6'11". Me, his handles are a little weird. Sometimes he's just there and he's not engaged. But the last half of the season, last third of the season, I saw that extra 6'11" guy crashing boards and blocking shots and being at the rim on some things. I mean, granted, he looks goofy when he's dribbling the basketball. I mean, hopefully that comes with time. He's a little erratic on those wing three-pointers, and especially those corner threes if he's going to play that position. But we got an incredible bargain. Thank you, Gerson. Thank you, TC, for wrapping him up. We got an incredible bargain on this guy. And he just at the end of the last year, he was starting to show that he wasn't just there. He was crashing them boards. And I wouldn't be surprised if he turns into the next Scottie Pippen. Don't nominate me for the preposterous statement tourney here. If Ant does what Brett says he might do, it might be the guy. And like you said, Michael, he's the second most important guy. And I wouldn't be shocked in 2028 when the Olympic basketball team has to reboot that he might not be an important cog. It's just this year. Let's see it.
Agreed. And yeah, like I said, the playoffs the last couple of years, he had games where he was just out of his mind, and he's definitely fearless out there, emotionless as well.
Sometimes
that's fine. But yeah, and I will say towards the end of the year, his ability to rebound, which is something that he's struggled with, was definitely noticeable. And then, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think by the end of the season, he became untouchable again. Remember the
right.
talks of him being involved in a KD trade, and every Wolves fanatic like ourselves knew better that they would not include him in that kind of malarkey. Mr. Steve, Chris Finch has been a lightning rod for this group. I think we can all agree with his success. All 4 years he's been the head coach. He has made the playoffs, full seasons. Obviously, he came on in Ant's rookie season when they sent Ryan Saunders packing. But talk about Finch and his maturation as a head coach and what you think he needs to do with his team, especially considering the fact that they were able to run it back this year with basically the same team, the most of the main cogs from last year.
Oh, Mr. Finch. I haven't always been his biggest fan, and I think that's no surprise to anybody who's paid attention to what we've talked about, blogs we've written, things of that nature. I think that if the team doesn't succeed this year, and barring weird instances, I think the word continuity has been thrown around a lot today and recently, that this is the most, cohesive and homeostasis year that we've had in the last several. We don't have any big trades. We're not bringing in Rudy. We're not shipping out Cat. We're not bringing in Julius. We're not doing this and that. So I think that this is the year that Mr. Finch has really got to show maturation on his part, as well as being able to help this team get over the hump, right? The last couple of years, we made it to the Western Conference Finals, and that's awesome. And, as long-suffering Wolves fan, we probably shouldn't be looking that gift horse in the mouth. But at the same time, too, it's like there's a difference that these other teams have had in being able to make in-game adjustments, in being able to make different game plan changes that we saw bite us in the series, Western Conference series against Dallas and the Western Conference series against Oklahoma, where we didn't make some of these changes. We talked about today about on-ball pressure was an issue. I'm like, yes, anybody with eyes saw that was an issue. in the playoff run there. So I think it's going to be a bit of a year that Mr. Finch is really going to have to prove some things himself. Connolly spoke today in his presser about trusting TSJ and Dillingham and Clark, and that they need to play more to earn the trust of their teammates, right? So I think that there was some veiled references there about being able to get a deeper bench. And we saw teams that were playing 9, 10 guys consistently make the deep runs, going to the Eastern Conference Finals and Western Conference Finals. And, so I think that this year for Mr. Finch, it'll be interesting to see. I think there needs to be some changes with in-game adjustments. And we really need to be able to push through to that. We want Ant to have that killer instinct to be able to close. I think we need to see Chris close that way as well, right? He's got to coach that way. He's got to be able to drive that. It can't just be the laid back mentor. Let's talk about it after the game. He's really got to find a way to motivate these guys in game to be able to flip that switch. I think that he can do that with his rotation and his bench. He's got players that can do it. We've seen that with TSJ. He finally got to that in the playoffs. So I think this is a bit of a year where that seat could start getting a little bit warm for Mr. Finch if we don't see some changes, because he's got continuity. He's got players. He's got year to year. There's no big monsters trades right now, anything like that that are happening. He's going into the season with a stacked deck, and we'll see how he deals.
Yeah, and I think ironically last season we made the mistake of having this a week early because they did the cat trade, I think the weekend before media day, and we were all shocked. I think it was a few days after we did this season preview. So this was calculated to not make the same mistake again this year. So appreciate that, Steve. Razor,
Yes.
obviously the last couple of years, well, and especially the last year and a half, this whole Glenn Taylor, A-Rod, Mark Loré drama has played
Yeah.
out. I believe I want to say sometime around February or March, they determined the arbitrators that A-Rod and Loré were going to get the team. There was talk of Glenn Taylor possibly fighting it, but at the end of the day, he conceded, and he is no longer a part of the ownership group, much to the chagrin of Brian, who's a big fan of his wife Becky's spaghetti or lasagna, or I can't remember, whatever the hell she
No,
would make for the team.
spaghetti is spaghetti. It's good.
But
Fresh tomatoes.
I know many of us thank you, Glenn. You saved the team from Bob Arum and a bunch of other snakes that wanted to move it, but at the same time, I think we were all ready for the new blood. Talk about the new ownership group, which they've been a part of the ownership group for a few years now, but they're the full-fledged owners, so you'll probably see a couple of different things, as well as the front office. I'll be honest with you, I'm not horribly familiar with them. I believe we acquired. I think was he with the Tampa Bay Lightning, or we acquired some front office person that some people
Florida Panthers.
Florida Panthers.
Well, yeah,
Right.
Florida Panthers. So, and I'll be honest, I'm not familiar with this gentleman or what he's going to bring to the table, but nonetheless, talk about the ownership in the front office. Razor.
Well, I want to take a little trip down memory lane and pay tribute to our guy, Glenn Taylor. When I looked it up, I couldn't believe that he took ownership of the Wolves in 1994. I think many of us were teenagers, maybe not you, Brett, but many of us were teenagers at the time. And it's been 30 plus years that he was the owner of the Wolves. And Mike, you touched on some of this, and Brian, B Naughty, you're going to love this part, but there were some highs. He saved the team from leaving to go to New Orleans. He took a chance on Kevin McHale and Flip Saunders to lead the team, coach the team. And they eventually took a chance on a high school kid in a historic move, a kid from Farragut Academy who ended up becoming a legend. But there were some lows. Sorry, B Naughty, I gotta go there. There was the Joe Smith napkin contract, the David Kahn hiring, the falling out with KG, McHale, all the falling outs. And then most importantly, I think they made the playoffs once from 2004 to 2021. They were
Jimmy Butler.
considered by many the worst franchise in all of sports. And then to end it, he tried to get out of the deal that he made with Lori and A-Rod. So it was an interesting 31 years, but sorry, B Naughty, I am glad it's over. I am still very curious to see what A-Rod and Lori bring to the table, but they're definitely bringing a lot of energy, and I think they're also trying to pay some tribute to the past as well with the bringing back of the jerseys with the trees on them. They hired that young, I think, CEO from the NHL, from the Florida Panthers, and there's talk of a new stadium. There just seems to be a lot of energy, and they haven't, at least thus far, been making any cost-cutting changes. I mean, they got under the second apron, but that would have been any owner would have done that at this point because it's so punitive now to go over the second apron. So I'm excited to see where this goes. These guys have large cojones and they are willing to take chances. They took a chance on Tim Conley, despite the fact that word was Glenn Taylor was against it. And I would say I mean, what a breath of fresh air that we actually have competence running our front office, and we've had it for several years, and I think it's here to stay. So I'm excited to just see the change and then see the continuity of our front office as well.
Fair enough. Brian, you get no rebuttal.
Sorry,
Am I muted?
Benatti.
All right.
I
You
don't even know who
alluded
you
to
are
it.
anymore, Razor.
You
In Finchy, I
you
trust. Benatti, you'll
All
like
right.
that.
yeah.
Okay.
So you alluded to some of the things that this group is potentially going to do, and before everybody hopped on, this was a topic of conversation, but the writing seems to be on the wall that KG will be back at some point this year, whether it's to retire his number, for him to join the organization in some sort of role. Obviously, it's well documented his history with Glenn Taylor, and he has refused to have his jersey retired here because of Glenn Taylor. But my assumption is that is going to change this year. So, Brian, talk about the potential return of KG and what it would mean to this franchise in this state.
First off, Razor, I I don't even know what to say. But anyways, let's go back to KG. He's the greatest player in franchise history. No matter, even if Ant wins a title, I don't think he'll ever be the greatest player in franchise history. He put us on the map. The Farragut Academy out of Maudlin, South Carolina. He gave the chance to flip, gave it to Kevin McHale. I would always say that Kevin Garnett, no matter what Anthony Edwards does, and hopefully it's a lot, will always be the greatest Timberwolves of all time. But the thing is, I gotta defend my Glenn Oder here a little bit. I mean, okay, all this damage that you're saying about the 31 years of ownership and then 20 years, the whole thing is, dude, he made that Smith deal because it was Kevin Garnett's buddy. He paid Kevin Garnett an all-time high, like 278 million. He signed Trenton Hassel. He signed Troy Hudson. He signed all his buddies. And I don't know. I think you're being a little harsher on Gleno than is deserved. He did save us. I mean, Marvin Harvard sending them down the river. I mean, it wasn't a Carl Pohlad will fake demolishing the team contraction. No, and I just think you guys are a little harder on it, and you're gonna see what these guys are gonna do. All it's going to be is profit. They're not just going to be these glorious saviors. They're going to come in. Maybe we'll win. There's a plan here. Kevin, his deal was when he came back, he was going to be a part of the front office, and then Flip died. And then Glenn kind of said, hey, we're going in the different direction. Kevin Garnett did not squawk at that point. After he retired, didn't say a fucking word. What he did have a problem with when KG's tried to get ownership and his ownership group, that Glenn didn't want to deal with it. I don't know. I just think that you guys are not thinking clearly on this. Hopefully, titles and kumbaya, dancing around the fire. Hopefully, that's all I got to say about it.
All right. Way to stay on topic. All right. We're looking forward to KG's return too, Brian.
Heck yeah.
But we alluded to it a little bit earlier, and I know they teased about it last season and it really pissed me off that they didn't do it. But the classic black with trees, which Brett has displayed, um, brought out the spree for old time's sake. Mr. Spreewell, who couldn't feed his kids on 21 million for 3 years. But anyways, they announced the other day, or I believe last week, that they are going to in fact bring back those classic jerseys. I have seen two. I believe they're bringing back the Prince jerseys as well this season, are they not?
That's the
So
rumor.
I
yeah,
hope
so
so.
two of the most popular jerseys in history, and arguably the most popular jersey in franchise history, the black one, which Brett is wearing right now. Brett, talk a little bit about the nostalgia, them bringing that back, what it means. I'll tell you, 2 years ago when they brought back the original whites, I got myself a nice Nas Reed one, and it's cool to see the NBA marketing wise. They definitely get it right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm torn right now. Do I get Ant? Do I get Nas? Do I get Jaden? Do I just get all three? My God. Um, you know, a thought that controversial thought that baked into my head was maybe it's good that we haven't won a title yet because it's just going to look so much cooler if we win it in these black tree jerseys, right? Like
Yeah.
they're just so awesome. And we're back to an era. Hopefully there's a stronger rebrand coming next year. It sounds like that's maybe the angle is they'll kind of rejig everything the way that Utah did, right? They kind of brought back like the purple and white and the mountains with a new spin on it. I hope that this is kind of like what that's leading into, because right now our uniforms, the classics, or I'm sorry, the icons and the associations or whatever, you turn on ESPN and you might be watching the Mavericks, you might be watching the Magic, you might be watching the Grizzlies. It's just the same boring navy blue that almost everyone else in the league has. You turn it on and you see these black jerseys with the tree lining the neck and the sleeves. That's the Minnesota Timberwolves. You know right away. So, man, I'm so excited. And not only that, that we get 28 games of these, right? You know, sometimes they wheel out the fun special edition jerseys. You get to see them 5 or 6 times throughout the year. But 28 games, man, that's a substantial load. So really, really excited about that. And it's kind of as B Naughty mentioned, jury's still out on the ownership. There's a lot of things that need to happen, but this is a testament to just their willingness to listen to the fans early on in their tenure, right? Wolves have one of the strongest. Wolves fan base has one of the strongest social media presences, right? I mean, from the birth of the Nas Reed phenomena that was rewarded with the towels to this now, right? And hopefully KG coming back is the next thing, but really strong social media presence. We've been, just clamoring for these jerseys to come back for years, and they finally they teased it so cool with that Instagram post where they're putting the air freshener, the tree air freshener on, and it just said tomorrow. Oh my God, I almost lost it. I was at work, just like refreshing my phone, just waiting for the first glance at the boys in the black tree. So man, it's gonna be really fun to watch what we hope is a really, really good Wolves team uh, win some games, and hopefully kind of the way they did in 2024 with the classics. They wore the classics for most of the playoffs, which was awesome. So hopefully we see a repeat of that and we get to watch our guys look really, really cool en route to their next big playoff run. So yeah, thrilled over here in my household with this news.
Yeah, I'm gonna have the same dilemma of what to get. And I don't have any of the. I never did get one of the Prince jerseys back, 7, 8 years ago when they had it. So I might have to
I
add
love
myself
those
to it.
jerseys, but I struggle with just like introducing a purple jersey to a team that's not purple, right?
Yeah,
Like they're so cool, but we're not purple, like yeah, I don't know, but they are awesome, and we all love Prince, and that is the king of First Avenue, so it is fitting.
yeah, absolutely. All right, we've talked about the Timberwolves. Before we get to our season predictions, let's talk about the Western Conference because there was a lot of shaking and baking, so to speak. Big trade, KD, from the Suns to the Rockets. However, now that Fred VanVleet has went down for the season, that definitely changes the West landscape. So, Razor, I'm going to let you speak to what we can expect because LA added the Clippers added some pieces, albeit I don't think they have anybody on their roster under the age of 35. Denver's made some nice moves, and people forget Denver just a couple years ago were world champions. They got to the Western Conference semis, Game 7 of the Western Conference semis the last 2 years, almost knocked off OKC.
Yeah.
So, what can we expect from the rest of the Western Conference this upcoming season?
Well, the West, as usual, is not the East. I mean, the Red Seas have parted over in the Eastern Conference with kind of the downfall of Boston, and then Indiana losing their best player for the season. And the East, or excuse me, the West is tough. OKC is bringing back their entire team, and sometimes a champion gets even better. They're truly battle tested now, and so I mean, just to make this as brief as possible, I think the Wolves really are right at that on the cusp, but they're just right below the OKCs. I mean, the Wolves can hang with everybody else, I think. I mean, Denver made some really interesting moves. Their depth has been an issue for a couple of years. They brought in Valanciunas, they brought in Cam Johnson, and then they also brought in one of their heroes, Bruce Brown. So I think that the Wolves will have their hands full with a team like Denver. Golden State, old, got even older today, or was it yesterday when they brought in Al Horford? The Clippers are, not the youngest team either. Lakers are interesting, especially with Luka apparently losing all that weight. But I mean, what else did they do this offseason? Bring in DeAndre Ayton, guy that nobody really wants to keep around because he doesn't try very hard. Maybe they'll inspire him there. But I mean, the Mavericks could be somewhat interesting with the addition of Cooper Flag. Anthony Davis is a tremendous player as well. All the talk is about Zion losing all that weight, but we've heard this before. And he seems to somehow pull a hammy at an inopportune time for that franchise. And they were doing some bizarre stuff in the offseason. So the landscape of the Western Conference, it's tough as usual. And you have this just maybe all-time great team with OKC ahead of the Wolves, but I think the Wolves are right there with everybody else and could take out everybody else, but it is hard to foresee them being able to best OKC at this point.
Fair enough. So with that, we will go and give our season predictions. I guess you can get as candid or as specific as you want. So I will start with you, Mr. Steve. What are you expecting out of the 25-26 Minnesota Timberwolves?
Well, to be succinct, I think the Wolves definitely have the ability to be top three, and I think the Wolves also have the ability to be, 7 or 8. It really depends on, I think, how we come out the gate here, because those, that first month of the season where people are kind of getting into things, those are the games that matter when you're 2.5 back or 3 up, or toward the, when we're getting towards playoff crunch time. So I really think it's going to depend on, the team coming out and having that killer mentality and all the different things that we talked about today with the maturation of Ant and Jaden and, Chris Finch and, TSJ, and what are we going to do there? Our big guys, who's gonna develop and who's gonna step up from now. So I'm optimistic. I think we're gonna have a top 3 finish the end of the season, but at the end of the season, but it's really going to depend on the beginning here. So like the people said, 52 wins, is that a thing, or is it 42-40 is going to get you 4th place? Who knows? It really depends on how much parity is in the West and how much beating up on each other we do. But I'm going to go with the Wolves to be top 3 in the Western Conference.
Brett.
Yeah, I'm right there with Steve. I think your top 3, some combination of OKC, obviously, Denver, and I really think the Wolves. Honestly, the continuity, the experience. You got Ant getting closer to his prime with the benefit of 2 deep playoff runs under his belt. The things I'm going to be looking for are Ant to leap into I'm not going to hold him to MVP, but let's say jumping into first team All NBA. Jaden, I want to be contending for an All Star spot, right? That's something that always kind of gets political, and guys make it, don't make it. There's just voting involved and whatnot. So I want him to be at least contending and in the discussion, and the kind of player where if you gave him an All Star bid, then it would be justified. So that's what I really want to see from Jaden. And then getting into that number three seat or getting into that top three uh, with those other two heavyweights. And then from there, anything can happen. It's so tough we can't predict the playoffs right now. It's got 8 months worth of things that are going to happen to all of these teams. But that's where I think we're at. Top three, Ant, first team All NBA, Jaden, All Star discussion.
Brian.
Well, I'm not going to even because the West, it's going to be the wild, wild West. There's some drastically improved teams. Even if you even look at Sacramento, San Antonio, Drew Holiday, and back in Portland. I'm not going to go on a number here, hey, we're going to finish second or fourth or fifth. Hey, we're just not, you don't know that. I mean, I'll have to ask my buddy Nostradamus. He's usually on key on that. But I'm going to go with 53 and 29. And wherever that brings us, that brings us. And by the way, I might say one more thing. Gleno, thank you for the chicken wings. Oh, one more thing. Feliz cumpleaños a ti, El Slimo. It's his birthday today.
All right.
So
it's going to be tough to top that.
yeah, so top 3 or 4, that would be crazy, but 52, 53 wins, it wins. You're feeling pretty good about that number?
Jackass.
50. Okay, 50. I make sure I just want to keep with your logic here, right? Want to be there with you, but just hanging in.
All right, Razor. It's going to be tough to top B Naughty's
I
comedic
can never
stylings.
I can never top that. But I'm coming back to you, B Naughty. I'm going with the over. I think you'd mentioned earlier that the over under for the Wolves is 50.5 games. I'm not going to say how many, but I am going to say they're going to top that. And I don't think it'll be too big a concern. The first year when the Wolves made the big trade for Rudy Gobert, I think they suffered that problem of not showing up every night. The following year, when they had continuity for whatever reason, they didn't have as many of those nights. They seemed much more focused. And I think last year they made that big move. They had the same issue again, where they were often didn't seem ready to play, didn't seem energized. I think the continuity this year is going to cure some of those ills. I also think a guy like TSJ is going to cure some of those ills. I think a guy like Jalen Clark is going to cure some of those ills, and Rob Dillingham, just these young, energetic guys that are going to get opportunities this year that are going to bring incredible energy when they get their chances. It won't always be pretty, but sometimes you win games you win a lot of games by playing harder than another team does during the regular season. And TSJ is going to be a major catalyst for that. And I think Ant is going to take another step. He needs to improve his on-ball defense and get back to the defender that he was 2 seasons ago. And I do think Jaden's going to take another step. So I'm going over 50.5, 50.5 wins.
All right. We all seem to be in the same ballpark. I already had this figured out before we got on, but I'm going to go 52 and 30 with a 3 or a 4 seed. And to me, you watched this team last year as a 6 seed, and they didn't lock that up till like the last couple of games to ensure that they didn't have to play in the play-in. But they made the Western Conference Finals the last 2 years as a 3 and a 6. So I think if you get one of those top 4 seeds, especially because you have home court in the first round, I mean, that's going to definitely help in your playoff success. So, I mean, as long as they can get even a top 5, as long as they can get that, they should be poised. But, I mean, none of us know, things can happen. Trades can happen. I'm just excited that the season is upon us. The one thing I love that the NBA does is the off season only lasts like 3 months. Well, and if you include the draft as well as the summer league, I mean, basketball junkies, you get 9, 10 months of basketball every year. So it's good for the season to be back, especially with the way some of the other teams in this market are performing. Or I think we had 2 seasons end yesterday too, didn't we? The Twins and the Lynx. So yeah, go Vikings, go Gophers as well. But I think all of our optimism right now tonight is for another exciting Wolves season and hopefully a fifth straight playoff berth. Because much like the jersey that Brett is wearing now, I remember the heydays, 25 years ago when KG and company went to 8 straight playoffs. Now, granted, we didn't have much success, but hey, Anthony Edwards last 2 seasons has given the fan base hope, promise that this might be our year. But we shall see. Gentlemen, I appreciate you getting together tonight. We will do this weekly again. I believe the regular season opener is somewhere around probably like 3 weeks out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll get back together here in about 3.5, 4 weeks and make this a weekly thing again. Hungry like the Wolves, or could change that name as well. We'll see. But I
don't know nowadays.
What's that?
You don't know nowadays.
Yeah, you don't. All right, gentlemen, appreciate it. Be good. Go
We should
Wolves.
call it, you know what? Let's do an on-air production meeting. Let's call it the tinfoil Timberwolves for all the tinfoil hat wearing that Brian likes to do.
The
So
only
we'll
way
call it the tinfoil.
I did not. It's sitting right next to me.
we have to get him a
I did
tinfoil
not.
hat for this season. We got to start, delivering on some props and some other shit to get people to watch this. So,
God help us.
appreciate it, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Man cave out. Have a good one.